The following is a production of the Dallas Genealogical Society. For more information, please visit our website at dallasgenealogy.org.
So our speaker today and our Director of Education, Patty Smith, is in Salt Lake City as we speak, attending Roots Tech. So I'm going to introduce Jake today. Jake Mangum is the Project Development Librarian for the University of North Texas portal to Texas History, which if you've not been on the portal to Texas History, and especially after his lecture today, you really need to go on there because that is one of our Texas gems. Especially the newspaper project with all the small town newspapers and a lot of other things which I'm sure we will learn about today. He works as a liaison between the Cultural Heritage Institution, digitizing collections with the portal, and he also performs outreach to various organizations and associations at the University of North Texas. So I would like to welcome for our speaker today, Jake Mangum.
Let's try that again, this time with volume. Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me. I appreciate everyone that's there in person and everyone online. I obviously am not able to be there, but I'm glad that I'm able to actually still be able to do the presentation. I'm in El Paso at the Texas State Historical Association's annual conference, kind of wrapping up that today. So I left a little bit early so I could come over to the hotel room and give this presentation to you all. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen. And we'll get this party started. So for those of you that are familiar with the portal to Texas History, yay, I'm glad to have you as a current user. For anyone who isn't familiar with the portal to Texas History, welcome. I'm glad to have you as a future user. The portal to Texas History, I by no means think it should be the only tool that people use, but it definitely is a tool that needs to be in the toolbox. So let's see. All right, before I really get into the whole meat of the portal to Texas History, I'd like to give you a little bit of background on it. It started in 2002 with the idea of preserving small community and at-risk community history, specifically those communities that were at risk of either being abandoned for larger communities or being absorbed by those larger communities. By 2004, we had our first online presence. We've gone through a few different iterations of what the portal actually looks like, but all of the information has kind of grown from this initial thought of preserving the communities at risk and then sharing that information out with the larger population. So if you go to texashistory.unt.edu, I'll say that a couple more times, texashistory.unt.edu. Last time, texashistory.unt.edu, you come to this home screen that looks similar to this. We have worked with 471 partners. This number has actually changed in the last couple of days. It's now 475 partners, collaborative partners, to digitize about 1.9 million items, visible items on the portal to Texas History. We do have several, I'd say probably 20 or 30,000 items that are still in the process of being made visible onto the portal, because we're continually adding stuff all the time. The 1.9 million visible items comes out to about 16.8 million files, because when you think of a book, it is one item, but it has multiple images that would be associated with it, from the front cover all the way through to the back cover. And I like to tell people that we're adding about 10,000 items each month. So if we don't have what you're looking for today, check back tomorrow because it might be added. We did about 159,000 items last year, and we get about 1.3 million users each month. I'll give you a little bit further breakdown of the portal to Texas History and the materials that we have on the portal. There are about 430,000 photographs, 877,000 issues of newspapers, which comes out to a little over 9 million pages of newspapers, 142,000 scripts, 7,000 books, 83,000 maps, 15,000 legislative documents, and so much more on that. All in all, we have about 36 different media types available on the portal to Texas History. Other examples of resources that we have on the portal, we have scrapbooks, probate records, family letters, Gammel's Law of Texas and other state documents, genealogical publications, yearbooks, serials, as well as course curriculum. So when you go to texashistory.unt.edu, you can, like I said before, you come to a home screen that looks similar to this. One of the nice things about the portal is you are able to explore in several different ways. Just below the search bar, if you want to just kind of see what's out there, you can click on the Explore By, and it'll bring you to a page that looks like this. And it'll show the box in the middle, the different metadata elements that we have that can kind of help guide you, or you can use the materials on the left-hand side to kind of go through and look at the same information. When you click on location, it's one of my personal favorites to search on the portal. If you click on location, you're provided with a heat map. And for anyone who isn't really familiar with a heat map, the darker the color of the county, the more information we have pertaining to that particular county or cities within that county. And we get materials from all over the state, obviously, and they come from a wide variety of different partners. So we work with museums, libraries, archives, universities, publishers, private collectors, corporations, genealogical groups, historical societies, historical commissions, and government agencies. As you scroll over the map, you can see that the county will turn red that you're over. It'll show what county and how many records we have pertaining to that particular county. So for Dallas County, as of last Monday, we had 253,618 items related to Dallas County. With the portal, one of the interesting things, unlike Google, for example, you can just hit the search button without actually putting anything into the search field, and it'll pull up all of the records that we have, and it'll show you the most recently added records to the portal. There's also a filter right there that says any type. If you click on that, it gives you an option to select specific media types right off the bat. So if you're wanting newspapers, just newspapers, you can select that. If you're wanting a combination of photographs, maps, and other images, or text-based documents that aren't specifically newspapers, you can select all of those, or you can go through and look and choose just the specific resource type that you are looking for. All of the print materials on the portal to Texas History are full text searchable. They go through a software system called software system that does optical character recognition, which makes all of the materials full text searchable. So if you are in an item and you want to see if this particular word or phrase appears in the item, you can type that in the left-hand side under Search Inside. I've added mayor to that screen to that section. You click on that, and it'll pull up all of the instances of the word mayor within this particular item. And you can click on the zoom view, and it will highlight for you where mayor is. And you can see just above the image, there's an option for zoom. There's tools and downloads. You can remove the highlight if you wanted. You could download different sizes of this item and things of that nature. So one of the things I really like to discuss in my presentations is types of partnerships. I like to highlight different partners that we've worked with, and as well as specific items from time to time that I have found on the portal and have just absolutely fallen in love with. So we'll start off with some partnerships. Museum collections. Weslaco Museum. For anyone that isn't familiar with Weslaco, it is a small community down in the Rio Grande Valley, and for a while they did this annual birthday celebration of the city, and they had a fashion show associated with this. And one of the amazing things to me about this whole fashion show is all of the fashions were created using produce that was grown in the area. So Clarissa Bali is wearing a suit made of shattered green fern. The lapels and her purse are made of mums, and the hat and shoes are fern trimmed in mums. Dorothy Carlos, her dress is made out of 1,000 alfalfa leaves. The purse is overlaid with ground alfalfa. The jerkin is made of rows of the scarlet bracts of the poinsettia plant. And what I like about this is these are things that just these dresses, these costumes, these outfits, most of these don't exist anymore. So the photographs are really the only example that this thing ever happened, and it happened for several years. I gave this presentation one time, and the Weslaco Museum is one of those partners that I like to highlight in just about every presentation I do, because it is so great and so unique to me. I gave this presentation one time, and a gentleman who was sitting in the front row was like, you know, my neighbor is a Carlist and he's from Weslaco. And I was like, really? That's fascinating. He's like, yeah, I wonder if he knows about this. So he went home, found this image, showed it to his neighbor, and called me the next day and said, that's my neighbor's mom. He had no idea that she did this. And by the way, you spelled her name wrong. So we went in and corrected the name real quick, but it was just fascinating because it gave that nice little personal bit of history for a gentleman who just didn't know this one aspect about his mom. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. Now, I will warn you that some of these costumes, while these are really beautiful examples, there are some that are a little further out there. This one, for some reason, reminds me very much of Lucille Ball. And I don't exactly know why, but that's the feeling I get. And the entire thing is made of eggplant. And this young man, I enjoy it as well, because he's got the look on his face that kind of says, I'm doing this for my mom, and I'm only really doing this because I get to have a corncob pipe in my mouth. And so it makes me smile. We also have library collections. We worked with the Dallas Public Library to digitize several items. Largely, we have phone directories, or city directories rather, and we have a few other materials from them as well. We also work with organizations. We've worked with Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Company in Fort Worth. We started off working with them specifically on digitizing several photographs that they had that were primarily done during World War II of the women workforce creating airplanes. But then since then, we've worked with them to continue building projects with them. And we got all of their internal newsletters from I want to say it's the early 1930s all the way to, I think, 2016 is the most recent newsletter that we have from them. We also have work with private partners. This is the private collection of T.B. Willis. He provides us with quite a bit of photographs from all over the state. He is a collector of beautiful photographs and beautiful materials that he just, when he finds them, he says that he has to have it, and he shares it with the world. This is kind of also where I like to point out that ever since 2009, we've made it a point to scan the front and back of every document, whether there is anything written on the back of it or not. And this includes books. So handwritten journals, sometimes people will start writing in the middle of a journal. We will scan from the front cover all the way through to the back cover, just so researchers have assurance that they are getting absolutely everything, that nothing was missed. We've worked with, I'll talk about this more in a little bit. We've worked with one partner in particular who they had a ledger of letters, and they didn't even start writing. The first page that actually has any text in it was page 145, I believe. So you had quite a bit of kind of flipping through if you didn't want to go through and skip to that particular page. We also work with academic libraries. The Dallas County Community College has participated with Portal to Texas History and given us some really good images. We've worked with the Dallas Municipal Archive to cover a lot of the materials. We've got oh goodness, my mind just went completely blank. We've got the city charter. We've got a lot of photographs, a lot of aerial photographs associated with specifically parks and the development of community spaces on the Portal to Texas History from Dallas Municipal Archives. We, of course, have also worked with the Dallas Genealogical Society to digitize quite a bit of records there as well. Now, talk about a few of the lesser known resources. And again, these are some of these are items that I have found over the years and just absolutely cherish and think are some of the most amazing things that I've ever seen and have found their way into many of my presentations throughout the years. So we have quite a large number of patents. And these are a few of my favorites. And the bottom right-hand corner is actually my second favorite of all patents that I've ever found. This is the improvement in umbrella supporters. For anyone who might have a little bit of a hard time seeing that, it is essentially a woman with a parasol attached to her bustle for the woman on the go. And I say that this is my second favorite patent of all time, and here is my first place winner for my all-time favorite patent. It's the mud scraper. Now you look at this and you go, yeah, it's not all that great. I don't really know why this is your favorite. But then you zoom in a little bit and you see it's by G.A. Mangum, and I have no idea if I'm actually related to G.A. Mangum. I haven't been able to actually make that connection yet myself, but as soon as I do, my mud scraper millions are rolling in and I'm out of here. We also work with various partners to do city directories, like I mentioned earlier. I like to include these because they have a lot of really interesting information, and there's a lot of direct information, of course, of here is someone's address, here is how they were contacted. There's also a lot of inferred information similar to what you can find in newspapers. You look at the size of ads, the number of ads for a specific business, and it can kind of tell you how long a business might have been in this particular location, and how well they've been doing to pay for ads. I also like this because we've all become so accustomed to having having a phone available to us anytime, anywhere, pretty much. We all have our cell phones. We just about all have cell phones, and so the idea of these records show how you had to go about making a long distance call. You would call the operator and tell her you wanted to make a long distance call, and she'd say, "Great, I'll let you know when a line's available, so stay by your phone." So it's just kind of one of those, especially when I'm talking to like younger generations who have no idea that that was a thing or that party lines were a thing. These are a great resource to kind of illustrate that. We also have maps. Like I said, we have over 83,000 maps. Our 1 millionth item on the portal to Texas history was actually a map. This is a map excuse me, try to say that again. This is a map of the Gulf Coast, and you look at it and you say, that doesn't really look like the Gulf Coast. It's because it's sideways, so you actually have to tilt your head just a little bit, and then you go, oh, okay, I can kind of see the curve of the Gulf Coast now through that. And just on the right side of the screen is the Louisiana area, and you can see that the compass rose in the middle is pointing north and to the right. Gammel's Law, Hans Peter Marius Nielsen Gammel. He has one of the longest names that I have had to say many times now, but I really enjoy it. So anyone who isn't familiar with Gammel's Law, the story that I've heard essentially was one of the times that the state capitol caught on fire. In the process of putting out the fire, several documents were considered ruined because they got wet. Gammel saw this, so all these materials basically out on the curb, and I have this mental image of him riding by in a wagon, whoa, slows everything down, grabs all these materials, puts them in a wagon, takes them out, hangs them out to dry, binds them, and provides us with 31 volumes of early Texas history. So we've got early colonization laws, proceedings from constitutional conventions, and all laws and resolutions passed from every congressional and legislative session from statehood until the fire in 1897. Again, all full text searchable. I guess I should go back to that screen. All full text searchable because they are in print format. So check them out. They've got a lot of great information in early Texas history. Yearbooks are another one of those ones that are a lot of fun to me. In particular, I look at the yearbook right in there in the middle for you is the Cottontail. This is the first yearbook for the University of North Texas back when we were North Texas State Normal School. It was a teaching institution at that time, and it was the only year that we were the Cottontails. We were the vicious, fearsome, mighty Cottontails. Nothing strikes fear in the heart of man quite like the cottontails with the cute little bunny butts and everything. Now, one of the things I do like to point out about this, and this is kind of where I show that I have a little bit of a dark humor from time to time. Inside this book, there is a dedication to this man who was a former president of the North Texas State Normal School, and they dedicated this yearbook to him because he had passed away of consumption, and which, of course, is tuberculosis. And I look at this, and it's a very nice tribute, and all I can really think of is he has a fantastic asymmetrical handlebar mustache. And this is where it really gets dark. And I think about this, and I look at this image, and I have the story plays in my head that he's getting ready for his photograph today, and he's trimming up his mustache and has a little bit of a coughing fit, and so that's why it's a little crooked. I have no founding for that part, but there definitely is a dedication in the yearbook to him. So we've also worked with the San Antonio Public Library. They have provided us with a collection of African-American funeral programs. There are 5,530 programs currently digitized, and they've got about 700 more that they're looking to digitize. These are great because they cover a time period from the 1930s all the way to the present. But what I really appreciate about these is they are not programs are less cost prohibitive than an obituary. So with these, we get a whole lot more information on this person's life, not just they were born on this date, they were died on this date, they were survived by these folks. We get more detail in it, and I really like that. So this is the correspondence ledger I told you about earlier. It's from the Kempners. The Kempner ledger down. The Kempners were a very prominent family down in Galveston. There's still a very prominent family down in Galveston, actually. But this ledger was about 3.5 inches thick of rice paper. And like I said, the text didn't actually start until you were on roughly page 145, and you see that they've copied all the letters there. They're all of their correspondence. But what really is fascinating to me about this whole thing is not only are there business letters in the front of this book, but then you take the book and you flip it over and open it from the other side and start reading, and there are personal letters written to family back home in, I believe in Germany, written in phonetic Yiddish, which is just astounding to me. So the Kempners actually had a rabbi in Boston go through the process of translating and translating those personal letters. So we also have all of a typed version of all of the personal letters connected to this particular item. We also have, of course, newspapers. There are over 800,000 issues of newspapers, which is, like I said, around 9 million pages of newspapers. These will have birth and death information. They will have marriage announcement, military service, land purchases, promotions, advertisements, family business, travel announcements. Some of those are actually my favorite, and I really appreciate that, so-and-so came to, or is coming to town. Everyone be on your best behavior for my grandchildren, that type of thing. And then social activities where there was a party happening over at the Smith house and everyone had cake and ice cream. And I just, those are fun little asides and give the people that you're researching a little more humanity than the numbers sometimes do. Now, the Texas Digital Newspaper Program, which all of our newspapers fall into this collection, but then also fall into additional collections as well. We host newspapers from across Texas with 1,780 titles. We are continually growing. Like I said, we're adding about 10,000 items each month. A large portion of that is through newspapers. If you research something today and you don't find it, check back tomorrow. Our oldest newspaper is from 1813 all the way to the present. The oldest newspaper isn't actually about Texas. They were provided to us through the Dolph Briscoe Center. Got that on another slide coming up here. All of our newspapers are full text searchable again. Some newspaper collections have materials from across the state, which, like I said, the newspaper from 1813 is part of that as well. Our earliest microfilm newspaper is held at the UT Dolph Briscoe Center for American History. Texas newspapers specifically span from 1829 to 1950, with heavy coverage from 1840 to 1873. We do actually, I will update this information there. The 1950 is no longer accurate. We do have newspapers, Texas newspapers that are a lot more recent than that. The materials have been digitized through the support of an IMLS-funded Text Treasures grants and awarded through the Texas State Library Archiving Commission. Now, we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about searching on the portal. I will highlight 3 different main ways of searching on the portal. And the very first one I'm going to say is a little bit of ridiculous search. It's not something that I would expect anyone to actually do. I'm using it as an example mainly because I want to show you the different features and facets within an item or within the materials on the portal to Texas History to help narrow things down. So start broad and then refine. So like I said before, you can hit the search button and just pull up absolutely everything on the portal to Texas History. So when this screenshot was taken, there were 1,332,002 items on the portal to Texas History. We have, like I said, grown considerably since then. I was going to update this slide, and there were issues and complications with it at the moment, so I didn't actually update it. So I would never recommend just hitting next page from this. That number is too large. You should always try to narrow down and filter out the information that isn't necessarily pertaining to what you're looking for. And you do that through using the facets on the left-hand side of your screen. So you can see the partner, collection, serials, series title, resource type, world regions, countries, U.S. states, counties, decades, years, months, days, and languages. You can also filter the materials on the portal to Texas History through the drop-down box on the right-hand side. Right now, it defaults to showing you what was most recently added to the portal to Texas History. You can change that to look for the first items that were added to the portal to Texas History. You can look for the newest created items or the oldest created items also to kind of change your filter, change your search parameters a little bit if you wanted to. So like I said, the 1.3 million items, don't start hitting next page. That's just way too many. Please, please, please. As a librarian, that makes me shudder a little bit inside, and it's just not a pretty thing. So I will show you kind of some of the filters that you can use and what they look like when you're narrowing things down. So if you clicked on decades, for example, it would pull up a box and show you all the different decades associated with this particular search. And we'll go into the 1940s. And that brings it down considerably. There are only 94,563 items associated with the 1940s. That number is still way too large for you to start hitting next page. So continue to filter things down. So with this example, we'll use the years and we'll choose 1943. That brings it down to 9,522 items. So you can see how quickly using these filters on the left-hand side narrows things down without even putting a single search term into your search field. So if you combine that with using a search term, you can see very quickly that this would narrow things down. So if you specifically wanted to look for newspapers, you would hit the resource types on the left-hand side and choose newspapers from there. And that brings it down again to 5,563 items. And we could go on and on and on, but I'm not going to go on and continue that further and further until all of these filters are used, because I feel like you probably have the gist of it by this point. So instead, we'll actually click on this item and go into it. You can combine search terms, yes. I'll talk about that a little bit in the next search example that I do with it. But we'll go ahead and go into this. And you click on the item and you are given a larger view of the item and the metadata associated with it. And metadata, for anyone who isn't familiar with the term, it is information about about an item. It is information about information, essentially, is how I've learned to describe it. And there's a box at the top left that gives you the who, what, where, when information. Sorry, let's go back here and try this one more time. All right, so the box gives you the who, what, where, when. So if you click on the who, it tells you who provided this item to us. It provides information on who the editors are of this particular newspaper, the publishers, any sort of information we have on that. We don't provide, especially with things like newspapers, we can't pay for student workers to read newspapers and pull out every single name. That's just not a realistic thing. So we do the editors and publishers and the names associated with the creation of the item, as opposed to the names that are in these particular records, because these records, again, are full text searchable. So you can pull that information as you needed it. There's the what is this item? This item is a newspaper. Here are the information. Here's the information about this. It is a newspaper. Here is its volume number, edition, all of that information, when it was done. A description of what a newspaper is and what collections these materials actually are connected to. When was this created? When does it? What period does it cover? And when was it added to the portal of Texas history? Lastly, where does this record cover? What particular area of Texas does this cover? So the next one is keyword searching. So a lot of people know, but some people don't, that if you put quotation marks around a phrase, it links those two terms together. So if you're looking for Dallas County, if you put quotation marks around it, it looks for it. Both of those words have to be next to each other for that search to pull up a result. You can do this in combination with other terms as well. So if you put Dallas County and then probate outside of the quotes, it'll look for Dallas County together and then probate anywhere within the record. So as long as these two things are happening somewhere, it'll pull them all up together. You can also include, we have what's called Boolean, or we use what's called Boolean operators. So you can use the word and in all capital letters, A-N-D. So if you did Dallas County and probate, it will look for all of those. Or you can use the word or, so it's an alternative to a specific term as well. So for this particular example, I included Great War. I put it in quotation marks so that it looks for that as if it were one word. And it pulls up all the records that have Great War somewhere in them. And now you will also notice that first, let me say 21,000, still way too many. Narrow your search down, use the facets on the left-hand side. I will also point out that this view looks a little bit different. Normally on the portal to Texas history, we have a list view, but I changed it over to a tiled view, which is the second option there that's underlined. So it's really good for me, particularly when I'm working with photographic material, and I'm not concerned so much about text, but looking for a good picture. That's when I use tile most often. Don't forget you have the facets on the left-hand side to help narrow down your search, but we're not going to go through that because we've already been through that. So instead, we're going to go ahead and go into this first item, which is the Texas Spirit of 17, a pictorial and biographical record of the gallant and courageous, and I'm in the way of the last word there, courageous men from Ellis County who served in the Great War. So it gives you all of the detailed information associated with this. Again, I showed you all that in the previous example of the who, what, where, when. There is also matching results just under that. You can see that's highlighted in the red box on your right under the search inside. And then there's also a green box that says 6 results. And when you move into this item, I apologize for I have a little, I don't even know what it's called at the moment, little thing that makes the little search box jiggle. And it is the saddest little jiggle. It's not what it does actually on the portal. I can't get like a video of that on here to do it quite do it justice. But you can click on either the matching results or the search, either on the left or on the right, and it both will pull you to the same place, or it provides you with the listing of all the different times Great War is used within a particular item. And then you can click on the zoom view there and see where it's highlighted. And again, you can go in further and actually zoom in on this so it's actually legible, because most of the time with these sort of cutouts, it's not entirely legible, but you can zoom in further and further and make it readable to you, or download the page and turn off the highlights, things of that nature. Lastly, I'd like to show you Browse by Subject. Now, this is particularly good for photographs, less so for text documents, again, because we can't pay for students to read all of the print materials that come through necessarily and pull out everything. So we use well, I'm going to show the browsable subjects here in a second. So if you click on the Explore By, browsable subjects is right there in the middle. You can see that we have 1,082 different browsable subjects at this time to kind of help filter out and narrow down what it is you're looking for. And you'll see why we can't really pay for someone to read and put all of these browsable subjects in all of the print materials, because it does a nesting thing. So it's agriculture, domestic animals, cattle, agriculture, domestic animals, donkey, agriculture, domestic animals, horses, and then agriculture, domestic animals, horses, tack. And so you can see how it kind of nests in on itself a little bit there. Paul said, the Boolean searching using operators, words like and, or, and not. These are logic-based words that help search engines narrow down or broaden search results. Yes, you're absolutely right, Paul. That was created in the 1800s by the formula for Boolean operators was actually created in the 1800s by a man named George Boole, long before computers really even existed. So he's got his name, he's now famous years and years and years after. So anyway, back to the browsable subjects. You can see how these kind of nest in on themselves, and there are a handful of large headings that these all kind of fit under. So you can see on the right, there's agriculture, architecture, arts and crafts, business, economic, finance, education, government, laws, and these go on from there as well. And that, my friends, kind of brings us to the end of the presentation. So I will open the floor for questions at this time.
Do you have any copies of the semi-weekly farm news?
Semi-weekly farm news?
Yeah. It's not just Texas, but it is kind of this part of the country. It's Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas.
That's a great question. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but let's see, it was the semi-weekly
farm news.
Let's see.
Hey, Jake, we stopped your screen sharing, so if you're showing something, would you share it again, please?
I was just doing a quick Google search to see if it was on there. I'm not seeing that offhand. Let me share my screen. All right, so What I did was I searched
Yeah.
texashistory.unt.edu, semi-weekly farm news, again in quotation marks, and so it looks for the bulk of that together. And I'm not seeing
Okay.
that specific title, but I see references to it.
Okay.
Jake, there's a couple of questions in the chat. How
Okay.
many links to other states, and does it give reference to other sources?
So can you repeat that for me again? I'm sorry. How many
How many
to other
links
states?
to other states?
So are you looking specifically for resources similar to the portal that are from other states doing the same sort of thing? Or I'm
No,
not
Sherry,
Let me
Sherry, do you
reference.
want to unmute and ask your question?
Let me reference. We are not from Texas, although our people did pass through here, but we're from Wisconsin, Utah, Oregon, Washington, et cetera, is the portal to Texas history. You show all the states on the site. Is this a good place to go to start searching and find information and or links?
So, I mean, of course, my job is to say yes, right? But
Yes,
so
thank you.
we do have, like you said, we have materials that reference all over the world. The nice thing about, and interesting thing to me about history is history isn't geographically bound. We've created these divisions, right? So we do have materials that reference outside of the state. A lot of newspapers, for example, will cover the my mind just went blank. World War II, we'll cover World War I, we'll cover different events that are happening nationally. So they cover national news. You probably, unless your people made the news in some way, they may not be in those particular articles or stories talking about how they moved, but you can still find information about other states, yes, within the portal.
Other question is, can someone outside of Texas access the portal?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are completely free worldwide. As far as I know, I don't know of any countries that have necessarily made it so that we can't be accessed, but if they, to my knowledge, everyone can access, yes. What else?
I think those are the only questions in the chat right now.
Okay. There isn't a handout for this. No. I haven't been able to quite wrap my head around creating a good handout for this that kind of follows along necessarily. But what I can do, if you all are interested, I can provide my slide deck to Tony once all this is said and done, and if he wants to provide it with to y'all, that would be an option as well.
Hi, is everything on the portal in the public domain, or are there copyright restrictions on some of the material?
Some of the materials do have copyright restrictions associated with them. Yes. Excuse me. A lot of the materials are public domain. All of the materials that are put onto the portal to Texas History, we have gotten permission to share them for educational and personal use at the very minimum. If you are wanting to use it in a publication that would be for sale, or you are going to make some money from it, then we would actually encourage you to reach out to the contributing partner of these materials and get authorization before you did that.
So Jake, is there something on the portal that we can tell if it's in the public domain or if there's a copyright?
Yes. So a lot of the items, and specifically the newspapers, will typically have be part of the public domain just by virtue of when they're done. But if you go down, go into an item and scroll down, there's responsibilities of use. So it'll have a different statement here, sometimes saying what the use status is, and then the licensing permissions, copyright status. This paper is currently under copyright. So you would
Hey,
need
Jake,
to
we
reach
took
out to
away your screen
publisher.
sharing again. I'm sorry. Would you mind sharing with us?
Let me pull that back up. Sorry. So y'all had a big picture of me just talking away. All right, let's try this again. All right, so I'll back up. And so I just pulled up the very first newspaper I saw, the Sealy News. You scroll down on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see there's citation rights and reuse. So if you go to responsibilities, responsibilities of use, it'll tell you kind of what the use is that we are giving for this. And then you scroll down a little bit and it says licensing and permissions, copyright status. This particular newspaper is under copyright. So you would need to reach out to the contributing partner if you were using it in a commercial for commercial purposes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
There's one other question. Are there portals like this for other states?
There are. We obviously are the best, right? Yes. Yes, there are other versions of this. And actually, since I have had this question from time to time, I've thought I would go ahead and provide you all with, can you see my screen currently?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I throw in a slide at the end about it for other options, and I'll also put it in the chat, the link into the chat.
All right, I have a question.
Yes.
The Farmersville Times is not on any kind of website. It's apparently bound. I mean, it started in the 1890s or whenever, and it's apparently bound in these books in the Farmersville Times building. That's nobody's in there. Or have you tried to get that? Or I've talked to the woman who owns that, going, please get this online.
So that's actually one of the best ways to get them to contribute to the portal to Texas History, is express an interest in them having the materials digitized and put onto the portal, which is like I said, it's a free service, as opposed to some publishers prefer to have newspapers behind paywalls, which are, as a librarian, that kind of rubs me the wrong way. I prefer to have the free access to the materials. I don't know of what level of communication has happened with the Farmersville News or Farmersville Times. My colleague Anna Kramer specifically works with the newspaper side, and I work with the non-newspaper archival materials. So I would have to defer to her on that particular question. But she in the past has always encouraged the publishers to reach out to her.
Yeah. Okay. Because I've talked to this woman before, and she's like, I want to make sure it's done correctly or whatever. And I just want it done before I die, because my family's been there since, way before the newspaper. And this would be anyway, all parts of my family are from there. So I would have so much information if I could just, yes. Totally.
Yeah. And those bound volumes are always fantastic. So Paula, I see your question about the how to use the portal videos still available online. I believe that they are. Those are the in the guides, I believe. Let me pull out of this. Please don't judge me for all of the things and all of the tabs I have open. It's a mess right now. Yes, so if you go to the portal to Texas History, there's the tour right at the top right, and it gives you kind of information about it and how to do the different searches. And
Several people have asked me about that, and I'm not sure who the lady was talking about Farmersville Times, but I put my email in the chat. I have worked with them. The Collin County Genealogical Society is a partner with the portal, and if you'll contact me, we've been working with them to try with the newspaper people to try to get those digitized. So give me shoot me an email.
Jake, would the procedure be the same if I'm belong to a small genealogical society who's just come into some documents that they want to see about getting digitized? Should we just contact you to start that process?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I'll include my email in the chat here.
Any
Make
more
sure I
questions?
spelled it. And there's my email. It's just jacob.mangum@unt.edu. Majority of the time, Marianne, yes, we do. The portal does the digitization. From time to time, depending on the resource type, we have found it beneficial to outsource that. But anytime we're working with a partner that we would outsource the material digitization, we contact them and let them know, who we were planning on working with and get their authorization before we do that. What else y'all have?
Maybe any other questions for Jake? Going once? Well, Jake, I really thank you for being with us today and explaining this to us. I kind of learned about the portal probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it is just awesome. Especially the way I love those filters on the left-hand side where you can just go in and really quickly select which area you're interested in, time period, and that just really makes it so much easier to do. So thank you guys very much for all the work you've done.
Absolutely.
Thank you for speaking with us today.
I love to take credit for it, even though I am only just a small portion of it.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you all for attending today, either both here in person and online. Well, we're really glad to see everybody and wishing you a good afternoon, and we'll see you back here next month.
Bye, y'all. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Jake.
This has been a production of the Dallas Genealogical Society. If you're already a member, thank you. Your fees have been supporting these and other society activities. If you're not yet a member, please consider joining now. Go to dallasgenealogy.org and click on the membership tab.